Everybody plays some kind of game. Press start to play. Welcome to my brain. Welcome to my brain. Press start to play. Welcome to my brain.
Alright guys, so it's time for my review of Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. Obviously you can see I own the PS4 version, but this whole gameplay that I did for the past streams was the PS5 upgraded version. So I had played, I mentioned it on stream, but I had played up until you get to control Cortex for the first time in that like dinosaur world on PS4, and then that's when they announced the PS5 upgrade. So I just stopped playing. I was like, alright, well, I originally was just going to continue from where I was, and then I thought, you know what, let me start over and stream it, because from what I got to play on PS4, it's super fun. Like, I guess we'll just start with like the graphics of it, like, because compared to the PS4 version there's no difference really, except it's native 4K and runs in 60 frames per second, which is nice. But it ran, at least as far as I know, unless I'm getting my facts screwed up, it ran 60 FPS on PS4 Pro, but obviously that was like a checkerboard 4K resolution. Maybe it even dipped to 1080. I'm not sure about that part of it, but I know that on the PS5 version it is native 4K, 60 frames per second, so that's nice. The art style itself is like weird. It's kind of like, it's like hit or miss, because like it kind of has almost like a Fortnite vibe to it, which I'm not shitting on. It's just weird. Like in like some levels, like I feel like it doesn't really utilize the art style well. Like there's a couple of them, like some of like the snowy areas, like I feel like they looked better in the Insane trilogy. But then like the space levels and shit, like that one world, I don't even remember what it's called now, where like you would be jumping on the backs of turtles, like that whole trippy, that was like the trippiest level ever, by the way, but that level like looked amazing. And Crash himself, I kind of prefer the Insane trilogy version, to be honest. But there are certain characters like Dingo Dial and even Cortex. I actually like them. They kind of look cooler with this art style. Like Cortex's actor and like his voice actor and the animations of Cortex were like on point. They were so funny. But Crash, like, I didn't hate the Crash design. I just kind of prefer the more like realistic approach to the Insane trilogy a little bit more. But this was still good. Like, it kind of reminds me of, like, you know, when you get in the mood to play something cartoony, you just pick up Crash 4, and it's really good. Let's see, the sound design for it was really good. There were a couple of tracks in there that I would start, like, vibing to while I was playing the level. And I was like, damn, this actually makes the level, like, even the more difficult levels, like, easier to play, because you're just kind of vibing, especially if you got headphones on. Oh, because that's another thing, is the PS5 upgrade gives 3D audio. And me personally, I don't know if I still have to mess with the settings a little more, but I'm having it like a hard time experiencing the 3D audio effect. So I might need to do some research myself to figure out, like, because I went into the settings and like messed with it, how you can change it to be like higher or lower. And when you're doing the sound test, the middle one, the default one, sounds fine to me. Like, I get what they're trying to convey. But then whenever I play a game with 3D audio, it doesn't really work. Except for the first time when I wanted to test out the 3D audio, I did install Fortnite and played that. I wanted to, because I knew that they would support it. And I tried it, and I could tell the difference in that game when someone was above or below me and shit like that. But for some reason in Crash 4, you know, Demon Souls, and even like Miles Morales, like I'm having a hard time experiencing the 3D audio. So I can't really comment too much about that on Crash. I could definitely tell that there was a difference in the sound design. Well, not the sound design, but like the quality of the audio, because I would play with my Pulse 3D headset on the PS4, because I had it installed on my PS5 when I got the PS4 version, and I could just tell that there was a difference. But to say that I could hear things above or below me is a little bit too much. I wouldn't really be able to say that with confidence. Trying to think what else. I guess I'll just move on to like general gameplay, which kind of goes across both versions with some slight differences that I'll get into. Obviously, if you've ever played like one of the first 3 Crash games, like if you played the Insane trilogy or the original games, I mean, that's pretty much what you're getting here in Crash 4 at its core. It is a Crash game, 100%. I think it's like an amazing sequel in the sense that, like, since 3 my god, I can't talk. Warped. Ever since that game, like, I feel like there's never been a good Crash game. But, like, they went all out with Crash 4. Like, it definitely feels like a continuation of the original trilogy. The gameplay is spot on. The platforming can get a little bit too precise, but with the help of that little, like, ring that shows where your shadow is, it shouldn't be too difficult. I died a lot, as you'll see, especially in the later stages, because the difficulty ramps up. But it's worth it if you can push through it. What the fuck was it? Oh, like, and then they added, obviously, like, the mask. I think the mask abilities are a great addition. I wish there was a couple of more levels where you actually utilized all 4 of them. Like, it's only really towards the end that you start doing that. But it was still cool. I mean, unless there's, like, special stages that I didn't unlock, because for my stream, all I did was kind of beat the main game. I didn't really try to get all of the gems and all that to try to 100% it, because I've watched some people talk about that. I watched Cat Icarus's video, and he 100% Crash 4, and it sounded like a nightmare. And just doing the main game, just those last couple of levels, I was like, yeah, fuck that. Like, I'm never gonna 100% this game. I'm not that hardcore, I guess. It sucks because they do add, like, secret endings and shit. Like, the true ending is kind of locked behind doing that, but I mean, if that's all you're gonna get out of it, just fucking watch it on YouTube, you know? Unless you're hardcore, like, into Crash games, like he was, like the Cat Icarus was, he's hardcore into that shit, so, you know, he did it. But just the way he described it, I knew before I even got the game that I was like, alright, this is a game I won't be 100%ing. Now, I've talked about, you know, the general game, but I haven't really touched on the PS5 upgrades yet, other than it being native 4K 60 frames per second. I did mention that they added 3D audio, which I didn't feel like I got the full effect of. But obviously they did add DualSense features. Now, if you watched my streams, I talked about the features a lot, because that was obviously the main reason I had waited to play, or at least to finish playing the game, was because of the update. The haptic feedback in the DualSense was okay, but here's the thing. I need to backtrack a little bit. So when you play the game on PS4, as I was, but I was playing it on the PS5, I would use my DualSense controller, and the vibration was just kind of like normal, whatever. Because obviously it's not a PS5 integrated game. But then, like, if it would die, I would grab my DualShock 4 controller and play it with that. And I felt like the vibration was actually better on the DualShock 4 because the game was optimized for it, right? Like there were just little subtle vibrations that you wouldn't really feel in the DualSense, because the DualSense was just taking those vibrations and kind of intensifying them. So, like, it's really hard to explain without feeling it. But the DualShock 4, like, alright, the one example I can give is when you're going between levels, right? The HUD on the top, right and left, will kind of, like, will, like, disappear, and then when you land on a level, it gives this, like, boom, and, like, it kind of, like, does that. When it does that, you feel it in the DualShock 4. Like, you feel this weird vibration that feels like it's like it's weird. But on the DualSense, you just feel like a regular vibration. It's just kind of like a, you know, like it's just regular vibration. There's a reason why I'm saying all this. So when the PS5 upgrade came out and you use the DualSense, it feels like what the DualShock 4 felt like for the PS4 version of the game. Like, when the HUD did that, you would now feel it in the DualSense. It had that weird, like, shaky vibration. So it was kind of really like I felt like I was using the DualShock 4 again, but it was just optimized. It was a little bit more subtle because it was using the haptic feedback a little bit. So it was a little bit better than the DualShock 4, but it just kind of reminded me of how that felt. And when you're actually playing a game, it's cool. Like, when you spin boxes and enemies, you feel it. It's cool. But when you jump on boxes, you don't feel any haptics. And I thought that was really weird, because that seems like the most obvious point to put haptic feedback. You know, that makes the most sense. But it wasn't in there. And it just felt really weird every time I jump on boxes. Like, me personally, though, I had too high hopes. I was hoping that they were going to go the Astrobot route and make it so you felt every one of Crash's footsteps, because the way that he, like, runs and the way his legs are always like this, I was like, that would be perfect to put haptic feedback into, like, his weird, like, run animations. I thought that'd be cool. But that's fine. I don't care if they don't do every footstep. But the fact that, like, you don't feel it when you jump on boxes, which is, like, the main, like, gameplay aspect, it was just weird. But when it did use the haptic feedback, it was okay. It was just a little bit lackluster, is all. Now the triggers, the adaptive triggers features that they added, those were actually fantastic. Like, they felt amazing. Like, it's one of the best games that I've actually felt utilize the haptic feedback in a while, because usually it's just basic, like when you pull a gun, or even in, like, I played Destruction All-Stars a little bit, and like when you hit the gas, like, it just kind of, like, you feel resistance, but then it just kind of poof, like, you know, it's just like a tight, and then you just pull it and it just goes, like when you're, you know, driving or whatever. But with Crash, it was cool because, like, they were really only utilized for, like, the jet board, Dingo Dial's vacuum thing, Cortex's gun, and Tawna's, like, hook shot. The jet board was cool, and I guess the animals, when you ride the animals, because you just use it for a boost, but it feels the exact same as the jet board. But when you do that, you actually feel it in the controller, like, when the board's going, like, vroom, like, you feel that in the trigger, and it's really good. Tawna's hookshot is cool because, so it gives a little bit of a resistance when she, like, throws it out, but then when it hits something, you feel the resistance again. Like, it's like a click, and then it goes out, and then click, like, you feel it grab something. It was really good. Dingo Dials was probably my favorite, though. So, like, you pull the trigger to, like, suck in the boxes, and that's just, like, kind of whatever. You just feel a little bit of resistance. But what's cool is, when you're, like, sucking up boxes, and then you get a TNT crate, like, you feel it clog up the gun in the trigger. Like, I can't even describe it. Like, it's like you pull it and you feel a tiny bit of resistance, but then once the TNT gets sucked into his gun, like, all of a sudden it's, like, really hard to pull the trigger. Like, that was cool. The effect that they gave that was probably my favorite part of the triggers, was that. So, I mean, as far as implementation, it was alright. Like, the triggers blew me away. Like, I wanted to play the side characters because I wanted to, you know, just experience the adaptive triggers. But one problem that I have with this game is when you do the side character quests, you also have to beat a level that you just did as Crash again. So towards the end, you'll see in the streams if you watch them, I stopped doing side character quests. I was like, bro, like, it would be fine if it was just the side character parts, but I really don't want to have to go through half of a level as Crash that I was having a hard time with already. So by the end, I just kind of said, fuck it, and I just, like, was trying to beat it. Especially because, I'm not going to lie, I did not mean for Part 4 to be the finale. But I'm kind of glad it was, because then I got to make the thumbnail using the 4 from the Crash 4 logo, so that was cool. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. I'm trying to think. I mean, I didn't really touch on the story, but I mean, the story, it's alright, you know, it's pretty cool. It picks up from where 3 left off, the 100% ending. And it's nice. You actually get a little bit of, like, kind of sort of insight into like Crash's backstory, because there are these like VHS tapes that you can find, and I think they're in every level, but you have to reach them without dying once, or you can't pick it up. And like in the beginning, the tapes are like right in the beginning, but as you go, they start being more and more towards the end. So it gets tough. But it's cool to have like a little bit of like insight into Crash's backstory, and you actually learn, spoiler alert, that like Crash going back in time is what kind of makes him like kind of stupid, like because he kind of like fucked up himself. It was cool because the last fight takes place in 1996, so. But that's pretty much, you know, all I gotta say about Crash 4. It's a really good game. It's kind of short. I think I beat it in like 7.5 hours, but that was just fucking pushing through, you know, most of the levels. Like, there's a ton of stuff to do. And, like, it could definitely take you probably more than 40 hours to try to 100% complete it. I'm sure it takes longer than that. But it's a great game. Like, I recommend it if you're a fan of Crash, especially the original trilogy, because it's very faithful to being a sequel, like, definitely. And the PS5 upgrade is, it adds a lot to it, and it's free. So if you, I don't know if they have a PS5 physical version or not. I never looked online. I just already owned it, and you can get the upgrade for free. So if you have the game, obviously you have, and a PS5, you have no reason to not get the upgrade. If you have a PS5 and you haven't picked it up yet, I definitely recommend it. I kind of hope they like add some DualSense features to the Insane trilogy now. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be cool if they did it for Spyro, but I haven't played that in a while, so I kind of forget what the triggers do, so I don't know if they'd even implement that shit or not, but still, Crash 4, it's about time. It's fun as shit, and that title is fucking clever, I have to say. Alright guys, that's my review of Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time. Until next time, alright?